to order at 7:05.
Oh, is Nancy going to do it?
You want to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
I talked Allison into it in case you were too tired.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Jan Gaffney?
Here.
Tim Holcomb?
Here.
Allison McFadden-Keesling?
Here.
Nancy Moon?
Yes.
Alan Panter?
Here.
Marilyn Pomeroy absent. Maggie Sands absent. Julie Meredith here.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve it as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those no longer in favor, please say aye. Motion carried. Call to the public. What happened to our public?
Becky wasn't feeling well and she sends her regrets. Technically, she would be the Friends report, but she's also usually our public. So.
Do they have a book sale in January?
They do at the end of January, yes.
End of January, there's a book sale? Okay. We have the consent agenda. Any questions? Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Yeah.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, please say aye. Motion carried. Nay. Friends of the Library report? Nope, not here either.
Well, that's what she's the one that's not here. Becky is the one that's not here, so. The book sale's in January.
Library statistics?
You have the statistical report in front of you. Now, these would be the October statistics. We're always a month behind. So the only interesting thing that I wanted to point out, everything in 2024 is doing better. Although the one thing that's really interesting is the adult programs. We have a lot more adult programs and attendance is lower. And the reason that is because we're doing fewer large events and more smaller events like the maker kinds of things. And those are really one-on-one, hands-on. And
More intimate.
More intimate, yeah. So fewer big events, and especially in the past few months. So not a lack of interest, just more focused. Any questions about the statistics?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll move to the library's director's report.
Okay. For the past several months, the library has been negotiating with Windstream with the oversight of the Michigan Public Service Commission to finalize the bill for our 3 canceled analog phone lines. At last month's meeting, we had received a final invoice for $592.24 and mailed the check. Late last week, we received an invoice dated December 1st, 2024, indicating the total amount due is now $0. We will contact the MPSC to close out that complaint. Woohoo! Yay, I know, finally done.
Yeah.
The library recently posted for a part-time administrative assistant for accounts payable. The selection committee was Jan Gaffney, Nicole Evans, and me. We conducted 4 first and second interviews and a technology screening test. We are pleased to announce that Kathy Stewart has been selected as our new administrative assistant in accounts payable. She will be in orientation on Wednesday, December 18th. Thank you to Jan and Nicole for being part of the selection committee, and thank you to Nicole and Melissa Schulman, our contracted accountant, for keeping payables running smoothly during this process.
Yay.
Yay, yes.
Terrific.
Very much appreciated. At last month's meeting, the library board approved the Clarkson Community Historical Society permission to host an after-hours holiday party fundraising event in the library, provided they obtained the needed liquor license and liability insurance. The Historical Society was able to fulfill the needed requirements, and the party took place on Friday, December 6th. It went very smoothly, and the Historical Society was pleased with the results. I'm not sure if that means they're going to do it again next year or not, but they said thank you.
They probably will.
The library will be collaborating with the Friends of the Library to consider new software to track Friends members, library volunteers, and donors. The current software has been in place for a few years and has been adequate for basic needs, but there are other options now available that would allow the Friends to consolidate features currently being done by multiple products and allow the Friends Friends and the library to share the ability to track and communicate with volunteers. Members of the Friends Board and the library staff will review a demo together in early January. And we are very excited about that because we don't love the software we currently have. It's okay, but it's kind of a square peg in a round hole, so. As the year comes to a close, the department heads and I have been conducting performance reviews with the staff. These one-on-one meetings are a positive way to discuss what has gone well over the past year and set individual goals for the coming year. The conversations have been especially exciting this year as we finalize our strategic plan document and work these fresh ideas into our workflows. Lots of positive feedback from those meetings.
Any questions or comments? I'm assuming the performance review that we do will be forthcoming?
Well, I was going to talk to you about that after the meeting. Usually Marilyn works on that, but she has not been able to do that. So I
Okay.
thought maybe you and I might tackle that.
Yep,
Okay.
we can tackle that.
Yep.
Any questions or comments?
No?
Okay, we should get down to regular business. Where is that? Here it is. It looks like to review and approve the part-time makerspace assistant position.
With Innovate as a leading philosophy in the library's mission and feedback from the community survey indicating technology should be a key library strategic focus moving forward, we know that our innovations librarian will become even busier. We want to assure that our patrons feel supported in their use of new technologies in the library. Some of this support can be done by the IT department, but because the IT staff will also be focusing on website improvements, we want to assure that the innovations librarian can have someone trained and focused specifically on supporting makerspace equipment that includes both high-tech items like the Glowforge and the sublimation printer and lower-tech items like the rug tufter and the sewing machines. Successful programs have been developed around our maker equipment to introduce users to the basics, and we have expanded services to include appointments for patrons who have attended an introductory program to come in and work on individual projects. This is where an assistant focused and trained specifically on the various maker equipment would be most useful. So the source of funding, funds were incorporated into the part-time budget to allow for the integration of this type of position in response to the strategic initiatives specifically regarding technology. And David, who is our head of adult services, is here to talk to you about this position.
Hello, and thank you for having me. So just a bit more on that, we found that everything Neil touches is extremely popular, but a lot of it is a little more high maintenance. So we looked at the kinds of positions as well as pay ranges that other libraries in the Metro Detroit area have done for a comparable position. And we decided that it would be a great thing to take a little bit off his plate so that he could continue exploring new innovations and collaborations, because Neil is the type that will willingly and excitedly jump at any opportunity to help out any of his colleagues, which we all appreciate. But as his supervisor, I would love to take some of that burden off of him for the daily appointments, the 3D printing, things along those lines. So we've already identified a possible local resource that might have some good applicants for us, should we be able to move forward. And we think this would be a great help to taking some burden off his plate and improving our services for some of those programs that are smaller, focused on smaller attendance, but a little more in depth. So a lot of these projects aren't 5 minutes, they might be more of a half hour or an hour chunks of time with individual patrons to move their projects forward.
Great.
Any questions or comments? If I recall in the strategic plan, people asked to have more accessibility to some of that innovative type equipment we have in the library, so sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's, when I used to do it here, I could definitely see the benefit of doing that, so. One thing I was going to mention here, in the actual job listing itself, I know in the past, on the part-time job listings, we've had a soft cap of I think 27.5 hours a week. Does that need to be defined here or no?
Generally, that is just a
Like a rough,
difference between part-time and full-time. Gotcha.
Yeah, so if they go over that consistently, then it puts them into the full-time status. So does the listing say that?
Well, the listing says 10 to 12 hours. I think what
Okay.
Tim is asking is, are you sure you want to limit it like that? Because your posting basically says they can't go over that.
But it's not limited because it says to start with the possibility of more in the future. It's the rest of the phrase. So to me, it sounds,
I just didn't know if somebody would possibly have the,
To see like the exceed like the maximum.
right, just so like, if they started and they're like, well, you said we could have more, does that mean like 30 plus? Like, I don't know if that's something that we need to,
is
It
that
might not be a
part of the
bad
policy?
idea to put not to exceed at the end of the, you're saying you're starting at 10 to 12, but then,
the only reason I brought it up is because I've noticed it on the other part-time listings, so I figured consistency would,
So
Be
is
good,
it like
but-
is it federal or state policy?
In our handbook, it says 27.5.
Yeah.
So it's capped there, but I think Tim's point is a good one, that if they approve this job description as it is, the board is basically saying, yep, your makerspace person can only work up to 12 hours. So this isn't the posting, this is the generic job description. So if you were going to post it, you could then post it as 10 to 12. But I think what he's saying is, do you want the range to be up to 27 and a half for future?
Those are very insightful comments. I would be happy to include an upper limit.
okay.
Because obviously all of our full-time positions are board approved, so this
Right.
shouldn't go into that territory.
Okay.
The initial set of candidates that we at least had in mind would be more on the younger side, maybe
Yeah.
high school students, et cetera, that hopefully shouldn't be able to get up to too many hours. We envision this as kind of filling in the gaps where maybe Neil is unable to be here. We kind of envision this as a mixture of assisting him when he's here, but also being able to cover some hours that he's not.
Right, makes sense.
so you're thinking more in terms of 10 to 12 hours, not so much 27 hours.
Correct.
Yeah, and I'm thinking if I was applying for this job, if I saw up to 27 hours, I'm going to think that that's what I'm applying for. So full disclosure, I would think that it'd be better to list it for what you're expecting, you're able to offer or interested in offering at this time, personally.
well, I think that if you're primarily looking at students as your likely applicants, then that wouldn't matter to say the 27, because they're not going to be able to work that many hours anyway, so. And once they're hired, they'll have seen the employee handbook and see that it's a part-time position and it can't go over 27 and a half. So that kind of covers that.
That's
then, I
true,
think. Yeah, so.
Okay.
You might have college students apply, and they would want 27 hours because they probably need the money.
But you don't necessarily want them to work 27.
Yes, so you don't have 27 hours worth of work, but, you
So
know,
I think 10 to 12 is where we want to leave it, right?
yeah.
We envision this as being largely
Yeah.
appointment and or project based,
Yeah.
so that they can focus on their schoolwork, but also get some real relevant experience.
Right.
Okay. That sounds great. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you.
We need to review and approve the part-time makerspace assistant position. We need a motion.
I move to approve the job description for a part-time makerspace and technology assistant.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the job description for a part-time makerspace and technology assistant position as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, say nay. Motion carried.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Good luck finding that perfect candidate.
He can do it.
Yes. Now we are looking to the approval of the server replacement project.
Okay, so for our 3-year technology plan, year 3 is upgrading our server equipment. To this end, I, meaning Bill, requested quotes from 3 vendors that we have done business with in the past and received quotes from 2 of the vendors. I am requesting we purchase the quote from GHA Technologies, which was the lowest bidder at a price of $13,102.80. It is a budgeted item.
Any questions or comments?
And I'm going to struggle if you have any technical questions. I was expecting Mr. Bowman to be available this evening, so I didn't brush up enough, maybe.
What's the time frame of the installation here?
I think he's hoping to order before the end of the year and get them installed in the beginning of the year, so.
And it's budgeted in next year.
It's budgeted in this year,
Okay.
so I may be coming back to you if he doesn't get it ordered quickly enough, so.
Right, so if
Okay.
the orders are this
Alrighty
year,
then.
it's-
Yep.
goes in this year.
It'll revert back to fund balance, and I'll come back and say, hey, you remember that money you approved back in December? He needs you to move it. I'm hopeful that maybe he can get it done, but he seems a little optimistic, but this is when he got to it, so.
Good luck, because there's only a couple weeks left.
I know.
Can we have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the quoted server from GHA Technologies for a price not to exceed $13,200.
I'll second.
A motion has been made to approve the quoted server from GHA Technologies for a price not to exceed $13,200. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in disagreement, say nay. Motion carried. Approval of the community meeting room technology upgrades.
Okay, due to an increase in the number of programs done in the community meeting room that require video to be displayed, last year the IT department, with the input of other departments, felt that we should upgrade our available video equipment. Our current system is a manual roll-down screen that was installed when the library was built in 1992 and a projector purchased in 2014. This has fulfilled our needs for many years. However, we recently updated other portions of the CMR, the lighting and sound, and it is time to update the video equipment as well. I contacted several companies to quote for the replacement of our screen and projector and received only a single quote from any of them. Mercury Sound and Light is a local company, and I have worked with them on other external projects. They have submitted a quote that contains the requested items, including all installation costs, at a quoted cost of $20,435. The parts are on the included quote. These are designed to work with our current audiovisual system and will include a motorized screen and a projector that can be used in all lighting situations. Due to the only single quote we received, I did additional research on standard industry pricing, and these align with prices found in reputable AV vendor websites. Please note that the cost does not include any construction or electrical work. The motion rolls in potential construction costs, and this is a budgeted item, and he's asking for $23,000. Or approval of $23,000, I should say.
I like that he took the extra step of checking to see if these were industry standard prices.
He knew you would expect that. He's learning.
Tell him that I'm happy that he did that. That was
I will
good.
make sure to tell him
Nice
that you
job,
were
Bill.
pleased
That
by
was a good
that.
move.
Yeah, nice job.
He knows what happens when he only gets one response.
Any questions or comments? We need a motion of approval to move forward.
I move that we approve the quote from Mercury Sound and Light for the community meeting room audio-video upgrades for a not-to-exceed project budget of $23,000.
Second.
We need a second?
I did. I was quiet.
Oh,
I was real
I
quiet.
thought maybe you raised your hand again.
She does that sometimes. You did say it first time.
It's a librarian in me. Second. I'll be louder.
We have a motion of approval of a community meeting room technology upgrade to approve the quote from Mercury Sound and Light for the community meeting room audio-video upgrades for a not-to-exceed project budget of $23,000. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those not in approval, please say nay. Motion carried. I seem to have my package upside down.
You're doing great.
We need to review and approve an updated list of vendors authorized to receive the ACH payment.
In 2023, an ACH and electronic transactions policy was approved by the board. As part of that policy, the board should review and approve the list of vendors that are authorized to receive ACH payments from the library at least once a year. The administrative staff has reviewed the list of vendors and identified 3 additional companies that have been challenging to pay in a timely fashion and also have the ability to accept ACH payments. These companies are highlighted on the list. So there's actually more we would like to, but there are several companies that we really would like to be able to do that with, and they don't accept ACH payments. So Allied Building Services, that's our facilities maintenance company. Midwest Tape is one of our vendors where we get audiovisual materials like DVDs and audiobooks and things like that. And then US Signal is the, is it the,
Something from Bill.
it's Bill's, I'm not sure if it's the, it's not the-
US Signal is like a telco provider in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
It's a
So,
what provider?
like a telecommunications
Okay.
slash.
I just
like,
know we've been having
IT
trouble turning them
provider.
around because they send us the,
Yeah, they're one of the ones that, like, they do it on the 1st, and they send it in the mail, and it gets provided the 8th, and they want it by the 25th.
so
So it's consistently late, and they do a late charge.
so we're trying to get out of late charges on that one. Yeah.
Nice.
Any questions or comments?
No.
It
So-
seemed, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go
Did I
ahead.
cut you off?
No.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Okay, sure.
What's our process for maintaining the lists, specifically the bank accounts and the vendors? So if a vendor contacts us for an update, what's the process for that? If they say, I've got a new bank account, here's my number.
Okay, so we have a spreadsheet that we keep of all of our ACH vendors, and we have it in a secure server that would be just accessed by the accounts payable and the 2 administrative assistants and myself.
Okay.
That information gets loaded into our bank account, and I'm the one that does that.
Okay.
When we do an actual payment, the process is very much similar to a check run, in that the invoice gets processed through QuickBooks, it gets put into a pile, and I approve those. They go back to the accounts payable person, who divides them into the checks that need to be cut and then the ACH payments that need to be made. Each ACH payment gets a form. So instead of signing checks, the 2 board members that come in to sign those forms, saying that I'm authorized to initiate those payments.
Okay.
When I initiate a payment, the bank requires that it gets released by another staff member, and that would be Nicole, is our primary person who does that.
Okay, so there's 2 people with their hands on
Yep,
it.
there's 2 people with their hands on it, and on that form, I write in that I initiated the payment, and then Nicole signs that she's the one who released it. If there's any reason why Nicole would not be able to do that, the other people who are authorized to do it would be Bill Bowman, who is our IT manager, and usually the other accounts payable person, which we don't have one right now, so it's just
Okay.
the 2 of them that can do that.
So if one of these vendors calls you up and says, I have a different bank account I want you to use, and you make a change, what is your process for that?
I would expect them to provide documentation that something is supposed to change. Fortunately, we haven't really had that happen before. Usually we contact them and make sure that we have the information that they
I
need.
think traditionally, Alan, it would be that we would update the spreadsheet, and then there is like a template that's in Flagstar that would be updated as well at the same time of us receiving information that has been changed.
I
So
think-
that way there's no mistakes, it's not sent to an old bank account.
I think what he's asking is how do we verify and make sure that it isn't just some random person who's calling and saying,
Right.
hey, this is a different bank account.
So I've had 2 clients have this happen to them, where a bank account number was changed and an ACH payment was made to an incorrect.
Somebody else,
To somebody
interesting.
else. And it was, somebody called up, they sent in a form, they sent in, appropriate document or what looked like appropriate
So
documentation.
it's a social engineering
Yes, and
plot.
and it
sounded
turned
like.
out to be fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So the payments were then hijacked at that point. So I just want to make sure that, we've got a process for any sort of changes.
Interesting.
And we're kind of vetting those changes.
I'm going to
because-
tighten, I think we need to tighten that up then.
That's something
Normally
that's out
what
there.
happens is that we reach out to them asking for their documentation to put it in. If somebody were to make a change, I think I wouldn't take that over the phone. I think I would then reach out to the contact that I have at those
Yeah.
particular vendors and make sure that I'm,
There's too many phishing emails,
Yeah.
I feel like that, even if I had an
Mhm.
email like that, I'd be like, that's weird, and I
Yeah.
probably would just call the company.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
having like a 2-factor protocol in place, like
Mhm.
written and verbal.
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really for the changes.
of course.
Yeah.
You know, it's when, the 2 clients that I'm talking about, they had This happened for existing vendors that were on the list. Somebody submitted a form, and that's what happened.
Interesting.
But
So they
that's,
assumed it probably came from the right place because it looked similar to
Mhm.
their.
it looked 100%,
Yep.
It's so
You know,
easy to get
legit.
tricked.
yeah,
Mhm.
it looked legit, but it wasn't.
So maybe
And-
if we were to receive something.
Well, and governments are very susceptible to this because everything we do is very transparent.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
out there. You
Yeah.
know, one of the clients, I don't know the story behind the other one, but the other one that was street projects, and it was a multi-million-dollar street project.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was approved, you know, by city council, it was,
Yep,
you know, so everybody knew who the contractor was, everybody, I mean, it's public record,
yeah, it
you
is.
know, so they're able to know that, and then, you know, send in a form saying, hey, I'm ABC Company, here's my new bank account. And, yeah, so.
Yeah, I agree that some kind of a two-factor,
Yeah,
you know,
Well, I'll be honest with you, a lot of these companies are not gonna like give you anything on the phone, so, but I do feel like there should be some kind of, if they're asking us to change information, that we call their actual phone number
Yeah.
and speak with the person.
Yeah.
Because then they'll be like, oh, no, we didn't change anything, and that would
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
with the fraud portion of that,
Yeah,
right?
and you gotta make sure it's not a phone number that the person that's asking you to change gave us.
Correct,
'Cause that-
correct, like go to the
Absolutely.
drawer, look
Yeah.
at their phone number or
Yeah.
whatever, and actually call the
Yeah.
actual company.
Totally.
Drive to the local branch.
Yeah.
Nicole, let's work on a good procedure for that, and make sure we have something in place. One of the nice things about most of these that are on here is that we have a direct contact person
Yes.
that we're used to working with.
Mhm.
So Allied, the person who does the billing and whatever, we know that person. TLN, we have a specific person. Baker and Taylor, we do. So that would be a prevention in some regards, but as you can tell, US Signal is not one that we work with very often, so we're gonna have to get to know that person, but we should have a procedure
Mhm.
that double checks that for change. Thank you for bringing that up. That's,
It's a good reminder for everybody, even at
It
home.
is, because that's
Yes.
really, because you've already initiated it, so
Mhm.
that's not.
Absolutely.
Usually get back, so.
Yeah.
for changes to AC treatments.
Any other comments or questions?
Just a general curiosity question, how do these vendors, like, appear on here as viable candidates for ACH with ACH payments?
So usually what we're looking for when we're picking ones for ACH payments, it's the ones that have, as Nicole mentioned, a really tight turnaround, and that if we don't pay them in a faster mechanism, we're going to end up paying late fees. So we usually reach out to them and say, sometimes they'll
Is it
come.
an option, that type of thing? Yeah.
Sometimes they'll come to us and say, hey, we offer ACH, and we're like, we're not going to do ACH with you. But if it's one that specifically has really, really tight deadlines, for example, the healthcare on our employees,
Right.
if we don't get that paid in time, their insurance could get turned off. So we need to make sure those are, and
Makes
those are
sense,
the
yeah.
ones that tend to be the toughest, because as Nicole said, they'll send you the invoice, or even if they email you the invoice, it won't come until the middle of the month, and they want it paid before the first of the month. And we just can't turn a check around that fast. I mean, all this transparency is great, except that it's a slower process.
Right.
And we have two people who are coming in, they're signing, and so this at least helps us to speed up that process. Things like the credit card was incredibly difficult to get paid in a timely fashion. By the time we collect all of the receipts and double check every single charge that's been made,
Right.
and go to turn it around, we put that check in the mail and it's late.
and so then you're not only looking in the case of the credit card to a late fee, you're also looking at interest.
At
being
interest,
charged,
yep.
Yep.
Which,
The credit card was the very, very first one that we
Nice.
knew we had to get on here, so, and that's at Oxford Bank. Yeah, so. And this is another one of those situations where Midwest Tape, we've had trouble, that one we've had trouble, 2 checks have gotten lost in the mail to them.
One got lost and one came back after like a month and a half, so I don't know. I called them and they said it was the right address, but USPS said it was unable to be forwarded, so I don't know. They're having issues, because they wanted to scan on the outside of the envelope, so I don't want another situation where the check ends up lost. But this one will be better.
No, I think you're better off making as many ACH payments as you
Yeah.
can. I mean, I just think that's the better way to do it.
Mhm.
More secure, you're not dealing with a time lag, you're not dealing with outstanding checks
Yep.
that need to be escheated to the state or anything else like that, so.
It just took us a little while to find a process where we felt like we were getting the right authorizations and all the checks and balances in place, and I think we've got that. And it was a little clunky at first, but now it's as smooth as doing the checks, the way we've got them separated out and the way they go into the packet and that kind of thing, so.
Nicole, do you have an idea what percentage of the money we're spending on a monthly basis we're now doing through ACH? Is more than half of our money going out through ACH, you think, or?
I don't think it's more than half. I think the checks are still the majority. I think like the last check run, and this is a little bit skewed because there was like a $20,000 check that was in there. So if you were to take that out, it was probably like, what, like it was like 40 and 20.
Yeah.
So like ACH was about 20. And I'll keep in mind when it's higher, it's because of the healthcare is on that one. And so that's why it's a little bit more. But it's a little harder to tell because like one will be more because there's a lot of beginning payments at the beginning of the month, and the other one there might be only a few. But it's definitely not anywhere near like half or anything like that.
And we do separate them out in your consent agenda. When you see them, they'll say it's a check run versus an ACH run.
Yep.
So you can see the difference between the two. They list out separately those transaction lists.
So, yeah, so Nancy, like, for example, on here, I see the ACH, again, one was 33,000, one was 4,000. Looks like the check runs were 46 and 13.
Yeah.
So,
And we
gives you a little bit of an example.
And we currently have a limit, a per-day ACH transfers or payments of $20,000. So we space out when the payments are going out, or we call the bank and get permission for a one-day raise. But we put a cap on it to assure that there's some security in there about how much can actually go out that way on a daily basis.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, for example, the one that was larger, I think we scanned it over like 3 days.
Okay, it works nice for those of us who are reviewing and approving checks.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Nicole. Do we have a motion to approve the updated list of vendors?
So moved.
I'll second.
We've had a motion to review and approve the updated list of vendors authorized to receive ACH payments. All approved, please say aye.
Aye.
Those not, please say nay. Motion carried. Our approval of closure dates for the annual all-staff training day.
So each year the library holds an all-staff training day. This closure is often approved by the board when the library closure calendar is set. However, the leadership team was still considering 2 different dates when the closure calendar was being presented to the board for approval. The plan for this year's training day is now coming together, and Friday, April 25th, 2025 has been selected. So we are asking for permission to close that day to do an all-staff training day. And we have plenty of time to let the public know.
Any questions or comments?
No.
May we have a motion, please?
I move that we approve a library closure on Friday, April 25th, 2025 for an all-staff training day.
A second.
A motion has been made to approve a library closure on Friday, April 25th, 2025 for all staff training day. Those who approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who do not, say nay. Motion carried. Now, the final review of the budget.
Okay. So we have, what you have in front of you is a year-to-date budget report from January 1st through November 30th of 2024. First column is the expenditures, the budget, and she's put, the accountant has put in for us what is over and under budget, and has identified accounts that she is concerned about. And then with you, with this form, you also have a list of recommended budget adjustments. So the first thing is, I think we did a pretty good job of being on budget this year. We do have some lines with available funds. Legal fees, I've identified $2,000 that I think we could use for other purposes. $5,000 in the conferences and workshops, $10,000 in building and grounds maintenance, and $4,500 in refunds and rebates. Now, refunds and rebates is that line item where we set the money aside that should, through, when the assessors allow people to object to taxes and have their taxes lowered, when they do, I can't think what it's called. in March. We need to have that money set aside so that if our budget were to be reduced in some way by returning that money when their taxes get reduced. And we've only had a few dollars that needed to be returned this year. So there aren't any more coming for the rest of the year. So we've got $4,500 there. So then what I did was I took these line items that she identified as being potential to go over budget. She thinks that the full-time is good. She wasn't worried about that. She was a little bit worried about the part-time. And I would agree with her. Sometimes at the end of the year, our part-timers are filling in when our full-timers get sick and that kind of thing. And we do have PTO for our part-timers as well, so we just want to make sure we've got enough money there that if we've got a bunch of call-ins and coverage issues at the last couple weeks of the year, that we've got that covered. Health insurance, we had some changes, retirement and health insurance and short-term and long-term disability, all 4 of those. We've had some changes in staffing, which changed the amounts. So we're a little bit off in our calculations for that. And then insurance, that's the building insurance. The building insurance is interesting because usually we get a rebate every year, and this year the rebate was not as much as it has been in the past. So we usually budget keeping in mind that we're going to get that rebate, and we didn't get as much this year. So we were a little bit off budget in terms of that. Telephone, that was just a calculation. We base it on the year before. And we should have probably upped that a little bit. I don't think that we upped it enough based on increases to the costs. And then water and sewer, that depends on how much water we use, primarily in the summertime when we're watering the lawn and things like that. So the budget adjustments from the available line items that I have listed below are then just kind of incorporated into the amounts that need to be changed. Any questions about where any of those came up short?
Is there anything that is changing here that we should look forward to next year and update? So like something that kind of, because I assume that, no, the next year's budget isn't listed here.
Right.
Right, so, because we're not talking about next year's budget.
Yep.
But, so one of these lines, just for example, sewer, we were $1,700 over budget. Do we think that trend's gonna continue? And I would apply that to any of these. Are there trends that are causing these overages that need to be considered for next year's budget?
Yes and no. The ones that are the toughest are usually building and grounds, because we can't always predict building repairs and things like that. Water and sewer, because that depends a lot on how much water we use. So if we have a drought, we use more water. And I think that's kind of what happened this year, is that we ended up using more water this year when we had trouble in the springtime. Yeah. Yep. Heating and cooling is another one, so the electric bill. And the snow plowing, that's another one we never quite know where that's going to be. The phone bill, obviously, is something that I think we need to look at. I want to look more closely into why we miscalculated that one and see if we need to make a budget adjustment going forward. That one was a little bit unexpected because as we were following it over the course of the year, we felt like we were in pretty good shape. And it wasn't until this sort of last quarter that we're like, what happened here? So we want to take a closer look at that one, I think. But generally speaking, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
I don't like to make adjustments to the next year until we've gotten through this year, only because when we make those documentations in the board packets and in the minutes, it becomes confusing. So I've learned, don't make any budget adjustments to the following year until you get to January,
Okay.
or it becomes confusing in the documentation.
Okay.
So. Because the auditor asks for those things, and when they're in the previous year's minutes, we sometimes can't find them. So, like, I know they approved this change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Keep
it's
them in the same year.
auditor's fault.
Well, no, we've learned that it makes more sense to keep it all in one year.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There's a panicked moment when you think that you didn't get board approval for something that you changed, and you realize that they did it before the year even started. Phew.
Yes.
Yeah. I learned my lesson on that one.
Any other questions or comments?
So in this case, if you are okay with the budget adjustments that I have presented, you could approve the spreadsheet of budget adjustments as presented. You wouldn't have to go through in each one.
Okay.
And we'll put it in the minutes that way, and that makes it a little bit easier for you to make the motion.
Okay. Could we have a motion to approve the budget adjustments as were recommended at the December 24 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We've had a motion to make the adjustments to the budget as recommended at the December 2024 meeting. All those approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who not, please say nay. Motion has carried. It's really not a lot of money. When you look at the total, it's really not a lot of
No,
money
it's
out
not
of,
too bad.
in comparison to the total that we spend on a yearly basis. It's not a lot. Any other questions or comments? We need a motion to adjourn at 7:45.
So moved.
Motion made to adjourn at 7:45.
Second.
All who approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who do not, go home. Meeting adjourned at 7:45. Thank you. And happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you.
Nicely done.